Scaling. Okay, so it's part of your planning process should be to think about scaling options for the workout. One of the mistakes that I see a lot of coaches make is that they don't consider who could be in their class and what scaling options they might need. And then when it comes into the class and somebody comes to them with a problem, they're caught on the spot and they don't make the best decisions when they're under pressure. So with scaling, it's part of your planning and then how to deliver an effective class if you've already thought about it. All right, so let's get into it. My face is covering half of this stuff. Anyway, scaling. Why scaling and modify? So this is covered in your level 1, right? Safety, efficacy, and efficiency. So I'm not going to go into it in too much detail. But safety, generally to avoid injury. Efficacy, generally to get better results. And efficiency, better execution of movements in the workout, resulting in faster progress. Okay, so if we look after safety, efficacy, and efficiency in every class, and specifically with scaling, then we're on the right track and we're doing a pretty good job. Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit more into scaling and how you might think about it, and then hopefully you can then go prepared to your classes, using in your class planning process, and know what scaling options to use. So modify. So the first one, how to scale, is to modify. And the modify, we can do it in many different ways. All right, we can modify the load, so we can reduce or increase the load. So depending on what the stimulus is. So a lot of this, as I would say, is scale for the stimulus, right? It's also, you got to scale for the athlete, the individual, okay? But general terms, load can go up or down depending on what we're looking for. Volume of work can increase or decrease. For example, you might have a very heavy set individual who hasn't trained and is very unconditioned or deconditioned, and the volume of burpees is 25 per round. That is too many burpees for somebody who's completely deconditioned or overweight. So you might reduce the volume of work per round and reduce them burpees down in order for them to keep moving, and also in order to preserve the stimulus. The intensity of the work, so the intensity, like fan intensity, is not going to suit somebody who just walked into the gym. So you got to modify the intensity of work. So maybe reduce the load, reduce the volume, and reduce the intensity for that person. So it's all person dependent, but having these options in the back of your mind, knowing that these people are going to be in my class, I got to think of these options. And then if somebody comes up with an injury, then we can change and modify the injury. So have that coming as well. All right. Remember that we can always modify up or down. So if we're doing push-ups and somebody is like an absolute ninja at push-ups, how are their handstand push-ups? How are their weighted push-ups? How are their ring push-ups? How are their deficit push-ups? It's like, give them a more difficult option. If they're an absolute ninja at it and they're just going to blast through, and it's going to be it could potentially be a waste of time for them to just do push-ups because they're so good at them. And so looking at scaling up and down, and that's modifying the movement while keeping the movement mechanics in place. So thinking about, if it's upper body push, try and stay with an upper body push. Don't go from, oh, you're so good at push-ups, let's do pull-ups. Totally different thing. Push-ups and pull-ups are different. Just because they're both gymnastic bodyweight movements doesn't mean they're the same. All right. So scaling for beginners. Scaling for beginners, each case is individual based, right? Of age, training age, sporting background, body condition. So you got to look at each individual case. Don't look at blanket. And everybody's going to have to scale differently. You can have generic modifications for groups, and you could say, well, we got beginners, we got intermediates, we got advanced, we've got unconditioned to very conditioned, and we've got 15 years training age, 15 minutes training age. Like, you can have different groups and in your mind of how you can then scale for them different populations, right? But each case is individual for beginners. Always over modify the first session until you get to know the athlete's capabilities. It doesn't matter. You could have somebody who comes in and they come into CrossFit and they've been doing Ironman for 15 years, and you're like, I think you should modify today. And they're like, oh no, I'm fit. I've been training for 15 years, but I'm okay. And you're like, well, you're the experienced one. You're the coach. You know. They don't know. They haven't experienced CrossFit before. You need to be the leader in that situation. You need to say, now hang on a second. I know what's going to happen here today. You're going to think you're okay. 1 minute into work, you're going to realize you're not, and then we're going to have to change it. So let's set ourselves up for success, and let's modify early. And if we need to make it more difficult, we can. All right, but let's start simple for today. And then the more we get to know each other, the more difficult I can make it and the more skilled we can become. All right. So when modifying the first session, say, I think I just said it, as we don't know each other, I prefer if we err on the side of caution, because I'd love for you to be able to function tomorrow, and perhaps I'll even see you back in again tomorrow. As we get to know each other, we can increase the intensity. All right. And the intensity is volume, load, speed, all that kind of stuff, right? So, yeah, scaling for beginners is just different. I always overscale for beginners, no matter what condition they're in, no matter where they fall, whether they're a 20-year-old who's played GAA all their life. They've never done a pull-up. They've never done a sit-up. Like, well, they probably have. But they've never done certain movements in CrossFit that you know are going to cause them pain and difficulty. And we want to really focus in on mechanics and techniques, so we don't want to get them going overboard. You'll always have, like I always see the generic, this is specifically for Irish people on the course here, the GAA, when you get young GAA lads in who've played the sport for years, they go to do strength and conditioning training in their gym, they do bench, squat, deadlifts, push, pulls, all that kind of stuff, and then in the class you've got deadlifts with something else, and then when they go and do the deadlifts with that something else, let's say it's Diane's handstand push-ups, they're like, oh yeah, but I can do handstand push-ups and because I'm strong enough, and I can do deadlifts because I'm strong enough. Combining the two into a workout is a totally different thing, and then they also all of a sudden get slapped in the face. So modifying for them to give them success, knowing that you can increase the intensity in the future, rather than letting them get the slap in the face in the first few sessions and then them not wanting to come back. Or they might be a different way, but they could also increase their risk of injury if they're doing too much too soon. So they might have done deadlifts and they might have done push-ups, but they never done them in a combination and a workout together, so it's different. All right, so just be aware of that when it comes to beginners, especially the ones that are fit. All right. Preserving the stimulus. This is the one big one for me when it comes to scaling. I'm always trying to say, can I keep the stimulus and can I keep the movements similar? And the first one is for preserving the stimulus. I've already talked about this in coaching for the workout, I think it was. So if you haven't watched that training video, go watch that one. I've talked about coaching for the stimulus and how to use guidelines and how to set people up for success and coach people out of RX and all that kind of thing. But if you use guidelines, the guidelines really do it for you. All right, so no matter what the workout is, try and figure out what the guidelines could be. So you should be able to do 5 reps unbroken at this load or at that skill level to do this workout. So if it's toes to bar, for instance, and you're saying you should be able to do 5 unbroken toes to bar, no extra swings, no nothing, like 2 full reps all the time, consistent 5 reps. You need to be able to do that unbroken in order to toes to bar in today's workout. If you can't do 5, find a version you can. So is that close to bar? Is it a straight leg raise? Is it knee raise? Is it just hanging from the bar with kip swings maybe? So it's like trying to give the progressional options, give them the guideline and then let them find it. But then also, if you see somebody who's going for toes to bar and you know they haven't got 5, have that conversation. Have that conversation with them and say, can you do 5? And they're like, no, I can do 3. And it's like, okay, so you're going to scale for the workout. And they're like, oh no, I was going to do the 3. And they're like, well, I don't think you should, because you're going to miss the stimulus. You may not miss the point of the workout. Here's a compromise. How about you do 2 toes to bar and 3 knee raises every single set? If it's 5, for instance, I don't know what the workout is, but if you needed 5, let's say it was 5 reps in each round or something like that. And you're like, okay, well, let's do 2 and 3. Compromise with them, let them feel like they've got a win, but then you've also got a win that's going to push them forward, and they're also going to preserve the stimulus and they make more progress. So the other end, you should be able to do 10 reps in 30 seconds. So this is specifically when I think about this, I think about the burpee example, because burpees just absolutely murder people and everybody has different speeds at them. You get some people who could do 10 burpees in like 15 seconds, and you get other people who do 10 burpees in a minute. All right. So you've got that wide spread, and then it's like, okay, well, how do I make sure everyone's hitting the stimulus correctly, moving at the same pace? Everyone's going to finish it around the same time, because that should be the goal for like most workouts, is that everybody finishes in around the same time. Everybody hits the same stimulus regardless of their skill level. All right. So you should be able to do 10 reps in 30 seconds. And then, like I did in the coaching for the workout, it was like add in the pass fail tests, add in primers, add in things that you can figure out. All right, how many reps can you do in 30 seconds? Can you do 10? Can you do 12? Can you do 8? Where is it? How do you modify? If you got 8 reps done in 30 seconds, modify to 8 reps. You know, it's that kind of thing. All right. So scaling. Aiming for the correct intensity stimulus on any given workout is where the results are. There are many reasons and ways we can scale a workout for our athletes. Scale up or down, load, reps, and complexity. Like, this is all the stuff I already said. Give your athletes the direction they need to achieve the stimulus. A lot of the time they will do RX when they shouldn't, just because it's RX. There's no shame in scaling down, and likewise, don't be afraid to make things harder. Should be able to do 15 burpees in about 45 seconds. And then the squats in like no more than sets of 5. Christy, how many burpees can you do in about 45 seconds? Maybe about 9. Let's modify to 9 instead of 15 to keep the stimulus. Here, Christy, add 5s to each side of that. Oh, what? Why? It's too light. You can do about 15 unbroken at that way. But this is RX, coach. It's too light. You'll just miss the point of the workout. Oh, okay, right then. I'll add more weight. Read the caption and hit follow for more coaching tips like this. So in that example of the barbell and adding the weight onto the bar, and he's like, well, it is RX. I'm already doing RX. Why should I go heavier? So you can say to him, all right, well, if you don't want to go heavier, you got to go quicker. Right now, it's a different stimulus in the workout, but I want you to go as fast as possible, and I want you to get this done faster than everybody else, or I want you to make sure you go unbroken, or give them an extra challenge along the way. All right. If they're like, oh, but why should I go heavier? And you're like, because it's too light. The stimulus is that you should be able to do no more than sets of 5, and you can do 15. So if you make it heavier, then you're making the workout more challenging for you. The harder workout is going to make you better. So we're trying to find the stimulus of the workout, not the score or the RX of the workout. Okay. So like, these are conversations. These all come down to leadership. So if you struggle with leadership and you struggle to talk to people and you can't talk them down off fences, go check out all the leadership modules, and you'll be able to figure out how to talk to people and how to get them to follow you and just like literally do what you ask them to do. So that's the scaling. What else have I got here? Oh yeah, scaling options. Find the right scaling option can make or break a workout. Don't let your athletes default to the same scaling option every time. Base the scaling option off the steps. I think I mentioned this in a previous training video as well. But the scaling options should be determined by the style of workout. So let's just look at this video first. In order to find the correct stimulus today, you should be able to do 5 push-ups at your chosen variation, but they should be a challenge. Hey Christy, that band is too much for you today. What do you mean? I always use this band. No, you shouldn't use the same band all the time. You're not forced on any adaptation, and you're not going to meet the stimulus of the workout. Well, what band should I use then? I always just grab the same one. Try a few different ones and see which one allows you to do about 5 reps. But remember, it should be a challenge. Okay, and if I use different bands for different workouts and base it off the stimulus, does that mean I'll get better at push-ups? Yeah, absolutely. Some days you might need a band that'll help you to do 20 unbroken push-ups, but today you only need 5. Thanks, coach. I'm going to follow you for more scaling advice like that. So that's where the guideline comes in. It's, you should be able to do 5 reps unbroken. With that purple band, Christy could have done maybe 15, 20 reps unbroken, so it was pointless. It was too much help. Should have dropped down the band, so he's moved from a purple band down to a red band. Now the 5 reps should be a challenge. Now he's meeting the stimulus of the workout. And the same comes for, like, if we use Fran as an example, right? And you've got people doing Fran RX with butterfly pull-ups. Then you've got people doing kip and pull-ups. You've got some people who might even do strict pull-ups because they're absolute ninjas. And then you've got people who want to do banded pull-ups, ring rows, jumping pull-ups. How do you find the correct version? If people are just used to go grabbing a purple band, you tie it around a rig, I'll use this band, I always use this band. Grand. The intensity of Fran is not getting in and out of a band and struggling through your reps. It's a little bit quicker than that, so jumping pull-ups might suit that workout better. Alright, that all comes down to an individual basis, right? But recommending the stimulus and recommending the scaling option is always the way to go, rather than people just defaulting and letting them default. So have a think about what the idea and intention of the workout is. Is it to move fast? Is it to do big sets unbroken? Is it to make it really challenging with lighter loads? Like, whatever it is, you got to find the scaling option that allows our athletes to find that, not just defaulting the same scaling option. If they default to the same scaling option, like I mentioned in this video, the progress is slowed down. Progress is definitely slowed down. If Christy grabs a purple band every workout, he gets absolutely nothing from that session. Like, the 5 reps should be a challenge. He can do 15 every single time. What's the point in doing push-ups? It's the same with the guy who is an absolute ninja at push-ups, can do 100 unbroken, and in a workout he's doing sets of 10. Like, he doesn't need to do 10. 10 is absolutely wasting his time. So stick weight on him at a deficit. go on the rings. Like if you've ever done ring push-ups instead of ground push-ups, man, they're a different freaking kettle of fish altogether. So like there's always ways to scale up and down, but it's always trying to preserve the stimulus and give the athletes a challenge rather than just coasting through and not making progress. All right, scaling for injury. So for injury, you want to preserve the mechanics of the movement. So that's always the first thing, right? So here's an example. The workout is barbell snatch at 50 kgs. If somebody is injured and they feel it, let's say it's in the overhead position, it's like, can you snatch a lighter bar? Because then they're still doing the snatch. Yes, they're missing the stimulus, but they're also moving pain-free, right? And I'd much rather them do the same movement than change the movement if they can do it at a lighter load. All right, if they can't do it at a lighter load, can you do it with a PVC pipe? If you can't do it with a PVC pipe, can you do it with single arm with the arm that's not injured? So if you've got a right shoulder injury, can you do a single arm kettlebell snatch or a single arm dumbbell snatch? Whichever one. It's a similar movement pattern. It allows them to pull from the floor, finish overhead. It's just slightly different, less load, and it's on one arm rather than the two. All right. If they can't do overhead, can they do a clean? Like it is changing the movement slightly, but sticking with the same Olympic lift, the pull from the floor, the aggressive hip extension. You've got a catch position, a finish position. It's a similar style movement that they could probably perform. Can they clean? And they can probably clean like 75 kilos, which is going to feel the same as a 50 kilo snatch. All right, so that kind of situation. If they can't do the front rack because of the shoulder injury, but they can still pull them from the floor, do a snatch grip deadlift. So they're still in that wide grip, they're still in that low snatch position, the start position, and they can pull to the hip, and then they can probably go heavier than 50 kg as well, probably like 60, 70, maybe 75 on a snatch grip deadlift. Or they could do a clean grip deadlift, or conventional deadlift, or a sumo deadlift. So if they can pull from the floor, do that. If they can't pull from the floor, can't do clean, can't do a snatch, then can they just press overhead? So pressing overhead from a rack. So it still gets that overhead position. You could go a little bit wider, which is a lot more awkward, do from behind the neck maybe, to keep the snatch in. You can go narrow and just do a regular strict press or push press, but something that's going to keep that same, preserving the mechanics of the movement. The mechanics of the movement for the barbell snatch is a lower body pull into an overhead finish, all right? And that's what you're trying to replicate if we can, all right? So I hope you understand that. I'll think of another example here. Preserving the mechanics of the movement. So for a toes to bar, like if somebody's injured, but they can still flex at the spine, they can't hang, let's say. They've got a shoulder injury, they can't hang. Can they do GHD sit-ups? All right, if they can do GHD sit-ups, but they're like maybe too advanced for somebody, they might be able to do weighted butterfly sit-ups or just butterfly sit-ups. You're preserving the stimulus of midline flexion through the toes to bar. If you think about the toes to bar as a midline flexion movement, abs, core, whatever you want to call it, can you preserve that stimulus? If you can't preserve the midline flexion, they can't flex their spine because that's the problem. They might be able to do some carries. So you could do front rack carries, overhead carries, farmer carries, a mix of front rack and farmer, a mix of overhead and front rack, whatever it is, because that's going to get them the grip that they use for the toes to bar, but also the midline stabilization without flexing through the spine. All right, so it's just another way to preserve the stimulus, preserve the mechanics of the movement and changing it to something different. All right. Dragonflies is another good one that you can do if they can't hang, for instance. They might be able to lie on the floor and do dragonflies really, really slow. Okay. All right, preserving the mechanics of the squat. So let's say it's a front squat. If they can't front rack the bar, they could probably back rack it. If they can't back rack it, they still want to squat, they could belt squat. Wrap a belt around them, stick their feet on a box either side with a gap in the middle, stick a kettlebell on the belt, and they can squat up and down there with the load is on their waist rather than anything on their upper body. Dumbbell squat, they may be able to use 2 dumbbells, 2 kettlebells, goblet squat, something like that to preserve the squat first. That's the first aim, is to preserve the squat. Then if they can't squat but they can front rack, they can front rack lunge. If they can't front rack lunge, can they back rack lunge, overhead lunge, who knows, right? So, but that's what you're trying to do, is like preserve the stimulus of this is a lower body push, right? So lower body push is what we're trying to think about. We're pushing from the floor. It's in the front rack position. Can we get front loaded? That's why you've got the dumbbell squats and the goblet squats in there, if you can front load it. If you can't front load it, back load it. If you can't squat, lunge. If you can't squat or lunge, the other alternatives that you could potentially use could be a bike. You could get them on a C2 bike, stick the damper on number 10, and that's going to burn their legs out. And it's going to have a similar stimulus because it's a lower body push, pushing the pedals down. All right. They might be able to do box step-ups, weighted step-ups, something like that as well. So always think about preserving the mechanics. A lower body push is the front squat in that front loader position. Okay. Why scale and modify? Oh yeah, so during the WOD, so you can scale further during the WOD. So if somebody's just missing the intensity stimulus or is unsafe, step in and modify. Like, don't be afraid. This is where you need to be assertive. And I cover this in being a coach, and the being a coach module in leadership. It's like one of your athletes is there, they're missing the stimulus of the workout. Be a coach, step in and tell them. Like, be their coach. Don't be the person in the room who's just letting them do a workout. Then you're just a facilitator. You're just an instructor. You're not a coach. So be a coach and tell them that they're missing the workout. Here, do this instead. Or if they're being unsafe, stop them. No, I'm not letting you continue because I don't want you getting injured while I am here, because I am responsible for you. And when I'm responsible, I make decisions. All right, so I'm not letting you make the decision. I'm making the decision. And you're like, no, it doesn't matter. If I get hurt, it's on me. I'm like, no, it's on me because I'm the one who works here. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not going to come into your job and do something that you deem unsafe. You're going to tell me not to do it because you're responsible for me. You know, it's like, you can have that conversation with people, like, in the moment. It might not be the best time, but you might need to be assertive at times. Sometimes you need to be assertive. Just be careful, don't be aggressive. I cover assertive, aggressive and passive in the Be a Coach lecture. So have a look at that one as well. If you've missed it, it will really help with these type of things. Okay, that's scaling. So what stood out most for you in this session? I want you to prepare scaling options for your next class and send to me for feedback. So whatever the workout is, what is the workout and what are the modifications for the stimulus and what are the modifications for injury? If you've got guidelines, give me the guidelines as well. So whatever information you have, and then I can steer you in the right direction. If you're on the right path, if you've got somebody you're scaling for injury and it's like the lower body push thing, are you on the right path with the different movements? So I really just want to give you a bit of guidance and help you on with that. Okay, thank you.